Hi again, everyone. This is Bob Burg with another episode of Go Giver Influencers. Today's episode is influential referrals follow-through. Because when we did the first one about a month ago or so, we got to the point that we were asking for referrals. In fact, what we covered was understanding the benefits of referrals, the fears that go along with asking for referrals. We talked about the referral bridge, which was a way of really asking for permission to ask in a way that was very comfortable both for you and your potential referral source. And then we talked about helping them to come up with names successfully instead of the usual, I can't think of anyone right now, but when I do, I'll call you. And we did that through the advice of Tom Hopkins from his masterful book, How to Master the Art of Selling, where he talked about helping people to funnel down their world into small groups of people to really create the environment for them to win, to be able to come up with good, high quality names. And then once that happens, it gets a lot easier. From there, from that specific place, we can then broaden it depending upon what we do, and we can continue to ask for names as long as that person's enjoying the process and as long as we feel it's appropriate. So let's continue this by looking at something, a way of asking that we hadn't covered in that earlier part. Now, what we had done to this point is we had asked in a name, in a way, excuse me, that I call proactive reactive. In other words, we weren't just waiting for them to refer people to us, because that usually doesn't happen, at least not consistently. So we proactively asked, but we left it totally up to them to come up with names, which again is fine. If you just did that, you would dramatically increase your referral business. But now let's look at one other thing we can do. This is when you have certain people who you would like to meet, you'd like to be referred to, but you don't know this person, you don't have an in with this person, and you either suspect that just calling to try to get through to talk to them is probably not likely to happen, or you just want to increase the chances that if you do get through, you'll be able to leverage the influence of someone who that person knows, likes, and trusts. So let's take an example here. There's a person in your town, and let's say you have a locally based business, and many of your customers and clients are companies, local companies that will be bringing people in, and you have let's say a relocation service, and this relocation service is nationwide. You have this service. You either own the franchise or the branch, or you're the manager or one of the salespeople, but whatever, your expertise is helping employees settle in, relocate, what have you. But you do have a network of other people all over. So let's say that's what you do. There's a man who lives in your town. His company is actually based in your town. It's a huge company. There are tens of thousands of people who work there. And the owner, his name is Thurston Howell VIII. Okay, he's a major industrialist, and he and his wife Livy, they have this company, and you just know that if you could meet him, you could help him not only in the people who come in to work for him in this town, but all the people throughout all his factories and all his plants who have to relocate and so forth. I mean, this would be just fantastic. So you don't know him personally, but you'd love to be referred to him. So let's start at the very end. Let's start with him and do a search on Mr. Howell, an internet search, and maybe see what groups he belongs to in your town, in your community, and start from there. And let's say that you see that he is a member, and let's say you live in the town of Springfield. That's a pretty generic name. The Simpsons live there. Half of the soap operas are from there. We'll just say Springfield. We don't know the state, but the city is Springfield. And so he's a member of the Springfield Historical Society. Most towns and cities have a historical society. He's a member of the historical society. So you know that. So let's take the next step and go to the website of the Springfield Historical Society. Now look at the membership on there. Go through the membership, which they probably have on the page, and see if there's anyone on that page who maybe is a client of yours, or maybe just someone who you know, who you have a great relationship with. They know you, they like you, they trust you. And so you see that there's a gentleman by the name of John Jones, let's just say. I'm very creative, John Jones. And John is not a customer of yours, but John's also a good business person. He's a member, right? And he's somebody who may know Mr. Howell. He may or may not, but he's someone, he hasn't done business with you personally because he doesn't have a company that would need your services, but you've referred some suppliers to him, and you had coffee with him, and you have a great relationship. So you contact him, you invite yourself to see him, to visit for a cup of coffee. You let him know you have something important you'd like to ask him about. He says, sure, that's fine. You go to his office, or you meet wherever you meet, and here's what you might say. John, I believe that, or I know you're a member of the Springfield Historical Society, aren't you? We said, oh yeah, nice group of people. Been a member for about 5 years now. And you say, isn't Mr. Howell, Thurston Howell the Eighth, also a member? And he says, oh yeah, Thirsty, absolutely, a great guy. He's a huge industrialist, but you would just never know. I mean, he's just such a humble, nice guy. And that's fine. So now what you say, and he says to you, why do you ask? And you say, John, with my relocation services, plus the network that the company I'm affiliated with has all over North America, and I know that Mr. Howell has factories and all sorts of places all over North America, I really believe that we could add significant value to him and his company through our services. But I don't know him personally. I have no relationship with him. Now, and here's where you would ask the question. I'm wondering if you would feel comfortable with this. I would really love an introduction to Mr. Howell if you feel it's appropriate. Okay, so what you've done is you've let him know what you let him know the benefit of what it would be to Mr. Howell, that you could help his company. You also the way you phrase it and the way you frame it. You say, I believe we could really provide a lot of value to him. I would really love, or I'd really appreciate an introduction to him if it's something, or you'd start it out by saying, if you feel comfortable with this. Or you could say, if it's not something with which you'd be uncomfortable, I really appreciate an introduction to him. Again, if you feel that would be appropriate. So you've given him a couple of outs or back doors, so he doesn't feel any pressure. It's not like he's feeling closed in and so forth. So he's much more likely to refer you because, again, when you give that out or back door and you communicate to him that there's no pressure, he also understands you're not going to make him look bad by pressuring Mr. Howell, that you're always going to be giving that person the out and respecting that person. So that's how you would go about I guess you could say, proactive type of asking for referral. It's someone that you would proactively like to meet, and you're finding that person who could give you the introduction. Okay, let me just thank you, Peg. Oh, Heather has to jump off, but we'll catch the replay. Todd, yeah, it couldn't be Thurston Howell III. He was from a long time ago, but this is his, I guess, great grandson. Ken, thank you. I appreciate that. And hey, Carrie, nice to see you from Laredo, Texas. Okay, so now let's go to another point. Question that I often get with this is, Bob, when someone, now we're not talking about this type of referral here, John is going to have to introduce you to Mr. Howell with this kind of introduction. But with the ones we talked about last week, or not last week, last month, when you asked if they knew someone who, they went to, what have you, we helped them funnel down their world, and they came up with all these names, and then they gave you these names, and you're now going to contact these people. So I'm often asked, Do you want to make the first contact with that person, with the referred prospect, or do you want the person giving you the referral to make the first contact because they already have that know, like, and trust relationship? Okay. So here's my answer to this. And this is one of the few times I'm ever going to make this an absolute. Okay. And here it is. It absolutely depends. It really depends on the situation. But I will say this, all things being equal, I, as the salesperson, I want to make the first contact with that person who I'm being referred to. Why? Because by and large, this person who's giving you the referral, while they may be your customer or your client, what it means is they know enough to be able to buy your product or service, but they don't know enough to be able to sell your product or service. So again, depending upon what it is you do, when they reach out to the person they want to refer and they say, hey, I just bought this really cool thing, so-and-so, so-and-so. I really want to introduce you to the salesperson. Bob Burg, can I have him, call you or something? Now, when this person, this other person has questions or even objections, and they say, well, I don't think that's something I need because so-and-so, so-and-so, so-and-so. Okay. Now, or it seems like that would be kind of, how much does it cost? And, oh, that doesn't seem like it would make sense. Now, of course, we know the answers to these questions. We're asked these questions all the time. We hear these objections all the time. But our friend, our referral source hasn't heard these questions. They don't know how to answer these questions, and they don't necessarily know how to do the discovery questions to determine if it's something that person really needs or not. So typically what will happen is they'll try to answer the objection, and the prospective client will say, the referred person will say, well, you know what? I don't think it's for me, or I'll get back to you and let you know if it's something, or give me his number and I'll call him if I'm interested. And we know the chances are that's probably not going to happen. So I would always rather, take the name and the number and contact that person. Now, there's a reversal of that though. And that is this. If this referral source has so much influence, okay, if they are what we call a center of influence, and people just, they know them, they like them, they trust them. When this person says, hey, you need to speak to so-and-so, the person doesn't ask questions. They just say, great, have them call. Now, when it's that situation, great, that's usually not the case. Oh, hi, Cloris. Great to see you. And we're going to answer the question in a little bit that you asked last time. Michelle Price joined. Love Michelle. Known her for years and years. Been on her podcast several times. She's great. So let's now go. So yeah, generally speaking, I want to be the one that makes the call. So now the question might be, well, so what do you say when you make that call? Now, of course, it's different for different people and different businesses. So we're going to be, again, kind of generic here. But the principles that we'll use, you can certainly apply to what you do. Now, this is going to be, we'll say this is a B2C, business to consumer type of sale instead of a B2B, business to business. There's our lingo and jargon for the day. And so let's just say, and again, I'm kind of going with this. You sell an investment program for parents, young parents, so that they can save for their kids' college tuition. Okay, and so you receive you receive a referral from Ann Jones, and to call Dave and Mary Smith. And because Dave and Mary Smith just, they have a young child, let's say. Okay, so you call and let's say it's Dave who answers the phone, and you might say, hi, Dave. And you say, yeah, hi, my name is Bob Burg. We've never met, but I believe you know Ann Jones. Okay, so what we've done right there is we've immediately, because he doesn't know us, and so in order to make him feel comfortable, we're going to utilize Ann's name. Okay, my name is Bob Burg. We've never met, but I believe you know, or you can just say, I believe you know Ann Jones. And he's going to reflexively respond by saying, oh, yeah, sure. How is she? Okay, and then we might say, great. Actually, I was visiting with her the other day, and your name came up in conversation. And, or you could say yours and, I think I said Mary, Dave and Mary, yours and Mary's name came up in conversation. And he'll say, oh, really? How? Now, here's where we say, and again, you'll do this according to how you do it based on your company, but it might be, I'm with Ashley and Elizabeth College Investments. We help, and then it might be something like parents with young children, or parents who are about to have, or who are planning to have children, create an investment plan that will easily and affordably pay for their child's tuition. Again, whatever it would be. It makes the point of what it is, what the benefit would be to them. And Anne, aside from being just a really nice person, also happens to be a valued client of mine. She thought you and Mary, or she felt you and Mary may be interested in knowing more about this, and I told her I would call. Boom, and that's it. Now, so again, it would sound like this. Hi, Dave. And he says, yeah, hi. Hi, Dave. My name is Bob Burg. We've never met, I believe, I believe you know Ann Jones. Yeah, how is she? Great. Actually, I was visiting with her the other day, and your name, or yours and Mary's name, came up in conversation. Oh, really? How? I'm with Ashley and Elizabeth, what did I say? College, financial, and that, whatever I said. And we and we help parents with young children, or parents who are planning to have children, be able to put together a plan that affordably helps them to pay the college tuition, what have you. Okay. Aside from being a nice person, Anne's also a valued client of mine, and she thought you and Mary may be interested in knowing more about this, and suggested I call you, or thought you may be not, and I told her I would call. Again, it's whatever your style is, but the principle is there. Okay. And now, so first, let me just look at the let me look at the discussion. Oh, Eva Bregman, or Eva Bregman. I'm not sure. Bergman, excuse me. Eva Bergman from Romania. Hello. Great to have you with us. I just want to see if there's any other comments about that. Okay, so that's a way to very comfortably introduce yourself. You're leveraging the relationship you have with Anne, and the relationship that Anne has with Dave and Mary. So it's very, very comfortable. So now the question is, what is Dave going to say? And there are a few different things Dave could say. He might, and hopefully not, but he could just want to really get off the phone. He could just say, no, it's not something we're interested in, not something we even want to discuss. Okay, if that's the case, just very politely end the conversation. Okay, yeah, well, thank you so much. I'm sorry to bother you. Make it a great night. And that's it. Because remember, we never want to make Anne or anyone who refers us look bad for referring us. So we want to just be as pleasant as possible. But he's probably not going to do that. Even if he's not interested, he might say, it's really not something we're interested in looking at. We do have a 2-year-old, but right now that's just, not something we're looking to do. And we'll just say, oh, that's fine. This isn't something for everyone. We all have our own plans. Now, you could get into asking them about, but I don't even think you do at this point. What I would just say is this. Would it be okay if from time to time I just maybe sent you some updated information? Never know what the future holds. Okay, and if he says yes, then great. Now, here's where you also can keep the conversation going, again, if he's amenable to that. And this is where we talk about, and you've heard me discuss before, or you've read it in some of my books, where we talk about the feel-good questions. And we just ask him, Dave, Ann tells me that you're a so-and-so, whatever it is he does. And you might ask, how did you get started doing that? Or, that sounds really interesting. How did you get your start in that? And again, you can judge how the conversation is. And he tells you, and then you may ask him that second question, what do you enjoy most about it? And so forth. Or we know the form questions, asking about family, occupation, recreation, and message, and so forth. Again, you've asked Ann about him, so you know some of this information about him. If he's involved with animal rescue, that's something you may want to ask him about, and he's going to appreciate it. So, and again, this just is really establishes the rapport, and then you can ask the one key question that we've talked about many times before. And this is the game changer. This is the one that changes the frame and changes the game. And you might say, you know, Dave, whether or not someone's a client of mine, I always love referring good people to other good people. Let me ask, how can I know if someone I'm speaking with would be a good prospective customer for you? Or if he's not in sales per se, you might say, how can I know if someone I'm speaking with is a good, is someone you'd like to meet or would be a good connection for you? I can't tell you how many people have reported back to me that they will be talking to a referred prospect who's not interested. When they ask that question, all of a sudden that person is interested. Now, does that happen every time? Of course not. It happens sometimes. But what it does is it typically advances the relationship. And then what you'll want to do is you want to, after this conversation, you want to send a personalized handwritten thank you note, as we talk about. You can find that, by the way, at sample at Burg, BURG.com/note card. Burg.com/note card. Sorry, Shannon, I should have put that in the notes earlier. I apologize. You send that handwritten note, you know, thank you. It was a pleasure. It was a pleasure speaking with you on the phone. I wish you the very best of success. Don't say anything about your business, about helping them with, no, not right now. But again, you're going to start a follow-up and follow-through campaign so that when it's time for them to, now here's another thing that can happen too. This person may not be interested, but they may know someone who is, especially when they see that you're not pressure and you're just respecting their, their thoughts. And it's, and they may say, well, it's not something we're interested in, but I got to tell you, Mary and I, as you can imagine, we're now starting to hang out at groups with a lot of people with young children, and, some of them may be interested. Well, okay. And now you say, great. I would certainly love to talk with them if you feel that would be of interest. Boom. And now you go, you get some names and some numbers. And now when you call, you let them know that you spoke with Dave Johnson or whatever his name is, because I can't remember all these names I'm making up. And so that's how these things happen. And then the other option is, yeah, that's really interesting. And if Anne is using you, then that says a lot. So yeah, let's get together on this and see what might work out. Okay. You just don't know. And what happens, remember, we talked about the great thing about referrals is that we talked about this on that last segment, that number one, it's easier to set the appointment because of borrowed influence. You're then able to sell on value rather than price. It's easier to complete the transaction, borrowed trust, okay, vicarious experience, and then they're much more likely to refer you to others because that's how they met you. So in their world, that's simply how you do business. Okay, so there's all of these methodologies that you can use, or just one kind of straight through with all these different options of what could happen. Now, I want to answer a question that Cloris had last time. And Cloris, I'm going to look to just make sure this is correct if I don't get this right. And that is, what if the person, what if the person said that they want to talk to the person first? If instead of just giving you the names and numbers, they want to ask them first. And of course, you need to respect their right to do that if that's what they want to do. But we can still gently and tactfully attempt for them to, because the issue is that they just don't necessarily feel comfortable with us doing that. Okay, so there are a couple of things we could do. One is we would say, absolutely, if that's what you prefer to do, to talk to them first before before I speak with them, I certainly appreciate you doing that. Here's what I find, and then I'll just leave it up to you to decide what you do. This is what you're saying to them, that they will most likely have questions that only because I do this all the time, I'm in a position to be able to answer, where you may or may not, feel comfortable or equipped to be able to answer that question, which is why I usually like to talk to them myself. Again, only if you feel comfortable with me doing that. Okay, now let's take it to the next step as we say this, okay? We know that the issue is that we want them to be comfortable. They're not necessarily comfortable with our calling them. So here's what we do. Again, let's say it's Ann, and we say, Ann, let me, if I may, kind of walk you through what I'll say when I call those who you entrust to refer to me. Let me walk you through what I'll say to them when I call, just so you'll feel very confident that, it will be handled the right way and everything will be fine. And again, if you decide, no, that's not what you want me to do, absolutely, we'll respect that. Now you just take them through the conversation you're probably going to have, which we talked about. So here's what I would say to her. And this is me telling Ann how the conversation would probably go. What I'll do is I'll call Dave and Mary, and let's say Dave answers the phone. I'll say, hi, Dave. My name is Bob Burg. We've never met, but I believe you know Ann Jones. And he'll probably say, yeah, sure I do. How is she? And I'll say, great. And actually, I was visiting with her recently, and your and Mary's name came up in conversation. And he'll probably say, really? How is that? Or how did that happen? And I'll say, well, I'm with Ashley and Elizabeth, college, financial, whatever it is. and we help people with young children or people who are going to be having children invest in a savings program that's going to help the child to be able to pay the full tuition by the time they're ready to go to college, whatever the benefit statement is. Now, I will then say, Ann, aside from being a nice person, is also one of my valued clients, and she thought that you and Mary might be interested in knowing about this, and I told her I would call you. Now, Mary, that's what I'll say to him, and his response might be, well, it's not something we're interested in. And if it is, I will very politely get off the phone. Or he might say, nah, it's not really something I'm interested in right now. And if that's the case, I'll ask if I can put him on a list to send information to down the line or what have you. Or he might even say, we're not interested, but we know some young parents who might be, or young soon-to-be parents who might be, in which case he might have some names. Or he might just say, yeah, I'm interested. But I want you to know that my first goal, my priority will be to never make you look bad for referring me, because I always want you to feel good and to know that your referred prospects are always in good hands with me. Is that fair enough? Now, she'll either say yeah or no, or she wants to, or whatever. We're going to respect it. Again, remember, the whole thing about building up this huge, huge referral network, this huge list of names, is that we never want to feel as though any one person, is going to harm us in any way by not wanting to refer, because not everybody's going to want to, or wanting us to call, or what have you. So when you do this, and you do this consistently, and you do this with confidence, with humble posture, people are going to feel very comfortable. Typically, it's, we always say, if it doesn't bother you, it's not going to bother them. That's not always the case, but it's usually the case. And so when you call and you get these referrals, now, boom, you're getting more and more referrals, more people who are now buying from you, and more people who are referring, and more of them are buying, and more are referring. And then it's just a fantastic cycle of success. And then you want to track your results. You can do this through formal software, or you can do this through your own. And that is, you just kind of track the number of referrals that you receive from people. And then when you call, how many calls it took in order to get an appointment. How many of those appointments turned into sales? How many of those turned into other referrals? How many turned into no's? And then of the sales you got, how many of those were you able to obtain referrals? And what you'll find, of course, is the higher quality turns into higher quality, turns into higher quality. And after a while, as one of my great friends, Rick Hill, used to say, you'll still have problems in your life, but they won't be financial. Rick was always great with those sayings. So, so that is pretty much, there's still a lot more we can discuss regarding referrals. This is one of those subjects that never actually ends, but let's take a look to see if we have any other questions or comments. It does not look so. So let me, before we end, remind you of just a couple of things. And that is, if you get a chance, check out this week's episode of the Go Giver podcast. Now, of course, this is for the people who are live, watching this live. It was a story about and it's a pretty short episode. It's over at thegogiver.com/podcast. It's titled My New Favorite Story, and it was about a Southwest Airlines flight attendant who absolutely just saved the day with an empathetic, kind, loving way of dealing with a passenger, and who, oh my gosh, it was just such a great story. If you're watching this on YouTube, so it may have been a year ago or 6 months ago or whatever, since that episode, when you go to thegogiver.com/podcast, just put in My New Favorite Story in the search engine, and it will come up to that. Oh my goodness. And let's see. Make sure you join our Go Giver influencers page on Facebook. I know Shannon's putting up all the links to that. Our next Go Giver Entrepreneurs Academy will be in November. So make sure that you look at this one and sign. Remember, we limit it to 10 people. Because we go very, very deep into people's business. And so that usually sells out fairly early. So go to GoGiverEntrepreneursAcademy.com. And then if you are an already successful professional and you would like to add speaking as something that you do, or you'd like to be a full-time speaker, or what have you, and you'd like to be one of our certified Go Giver speakers, make sure you check out GoGiverSpeakers.com. That is just about it for here. One more look at the discussion, and I'll be back to comment afterwards, of course. But I do thank you all for joining me, and we'll be back with another episode next week. Until then, I'm Bob Burg, wishing you a great day and a fantastic week. Thank you.